Russian forces often deploy large forces to seize Ukrainian territory. Various armored vehicles were deployed to the front lines to carry out the attack. The deployed APCs were always full of infantry who continued to advance to approach Ukrainian territory. But Ukrainian troops are always ready for a Russian attack. This time, Ukrainian forces used vampire drones to drop grenades on potential Russian attack routes. Equipped with heavy explosives, Ukrainian drones flew overhead and dropped explosives. The Russian armored vehicles confidently advanced. And then, this is what happened. The explosion just now destroyed 2 Russian APCs at once. The remaining vehicles continued to drive and opened fire. Ukrainian drone operators never fail to notice such movements. They continuously follow the vehicles with kamikaze drones. When the right time is found, the target is immediately destroyed. The Russian infantry scrambled to escape, leaving their vehicles abandoned on the battlefield. This was the opportunity the Ukrainian drone operators had been waiting for, as stationary vehicles were easy prey for Ukrainian drones. The ammunition the vehicle was carrying triggered a powerful explosion. Vampire drones were also deployed there. When he was right above the tank, the operator aimed at its weak point, and the grenade was immediately dropped. A massive explosion can no longer be avoided. A Russian tank tried to hide in the bushes, but the Ukrainian drone operator gave it no chance to escape. The FPV drone locks onto the target and attacks from behind. The FPV drone attacks the tank's weak points. The crew immediately abandoned the vehicle and fled. Meanwhile, more FPV drones were deployed to finish off the burning tanks. This was the remaining vehicle. It was passing through an open field littered with landmines. It carefully avoided the artillery shells aimed at it. But at the end of the road, it struck a mine. And this is what happened. The powerful explosion sent particles of the vehicle scattering into the air. And this was the last remaining vehicle. With its full infantry, the vehicle was forced to take an extreme route. An FPV drone was sent there to end the vehicle's journey. This time, 2 Russian APCs, complete with infantry inside, are driving towards Ukrainian territory. The APCs drove through the minefields, and when they reached the Ukrainian trenches, the infantry troops were dismounted to begin the attack. Russian drone operators use Mavic drones for remote control. Meanwhile, the main group moved quickly and stormed the position. Russian troops took control of the trenches. From here, they can continue their attacks on Ukrainian territory. After that, Russian troops entered the destroyed Ukrainian buildings. They captured the first floors and, after searching every corner, secured the entire building. After making a rapid move, the Russian army received orders to continue moving forward at all costs. Russian troops are capturing building after building. The offensive is proceeding exactly as planned for now. The Ukrainian army managed to hold off the onslaught, but they were significantly outnumbered. In addition, ammunition was running low as Russian troops continued to advance. Under pressure from all sides, the Ukrainian army retreated and took cover. A few hours later, Ukrainian troops again chose to advance, but this time at night. They tried to break through the trenches previously controlled by Russian troops. The attack was carried out systematically. They threw grenades into each trench and then entered.
Кидай. Вліво-право. Присядь. Граната своя.
Сховайтесь. Може в'їбати, сховайтесь. Наперед, наперед. Просуваємося, просуваємося.
In a state of extreme alert, the soldiers continued to fire several shots at every trench they passed. They continued to check every corner for possible Russian troops. For the smooth running of this attack, the soldiers protected each other. As the sun began to rise, the Ukrainian troops began to accelerate their attack. They cleared trench after trench and moved forward.
Ще одну гранату достану. Я тоже. Есть блиндаж налево.
In the middle of the attack, suddenly the ammunition depot exploded, and they suspected there was a Russian attack in the opposite direction. Shots were fired.
БК, їбало. Їбало БК, да. Мінус, мінус. Є, ще живий. Червоний. Сука, проблема. Не викрию дохуя.
Розсидіться, парні! Там підарі мінус, нахуй, БК зірвало!
Підходимо.
Один контроль, один гранату! Контрольте постійно!
As the day grew brighter, the Ukrainian troops had almost reached the end of the trench and had not yet encountered any Russian troops. They blew up each Russian hideout to the point of burning and then approached to inspect it.
Плюс, чітко в бійницю зайшло. Артес, з тобою. Беру право, ліво вверх. І ще один бліндаж. Ще один бліндаж!
Finally, Russian troops were detected. The battle began. Witness the bravery of these Ukrainian troops. All of them special forces from the Azov unit sent there to retake positions previously occupied by Russian troops.
Хорошо. Охуеть. Проходимо, давай. Давай, давай. Сховайся. Туда їх, сука.
Обережно, з прострілами.
Плюс, пішла мощно. Укриття. Граната. Блядь, проблема. Сука.
Ярки! Спокійно, спокійно. Прикрийте їх, парні, вогонь!
Даю туда гранату. Ти впав. Чисто!
This unit managed to push back the Russian forces for a while.
Група стоп!
Група стоп!
Група стоп!
Розтягуємося. Розтягуємося, розтягуємося. Кулеметник!
Віктор, передай, хай очі кулеметника найдуть! Хай очі кулеметника найдуть!
В лівому флангу кулемет!
Хуйово.
Все, мініруй!
Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces deployed armored groups to support the resistance. T-64 tanks were sent to destroy enemy positions. And the Bradley armored vehicle was used to transport more Ukrainian soldiers to the battlefield. A Ukrainian tank moved first and opened fire on the Russian positions. After the first shot, the building collapsed and burned until nothing remained. The Ukrainian tank reloaded its ammunition and continued firing at the Russian army position. The Ukrainian tank crew successfully completed the mission and deployed a smokescreen to prevent attacks from Russian anti-tank missiles and FPV drones. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian Bradley armored vehicle was approaching the Russian position. Ukrainian troops are prepared to act quickly. As soon as the Bradley stopped, they rushed out and began to take control of the buildings. Bradley pressured the Russian positions using Bushmaster cannons. This allowed Ukrainian forces to continue advancing. The Russian convoy was reportedly heading towards the villages of Zelenyi Shliak and Novoy Vanivka, continuing its efforts to breach Ukrainian defense lines. This attack was part of a larger Russian offensive in the region, with Ukrainian military analysts noting significant concentrations of enemy troops and equipment. The Deep State Ukraine project confirmed that Russian forces had made initial advances towards the targeted villages, but were ultimately halted after fierce resistance. Today was a very difficult day near Novoy Vanivka. Our artillery units and drone operators had to engage in direct combat. Although the enemy initially held territory near Snagost, they were completely stopped by the end of the day, Deep State analysts reported. The success of the Russian offensive is attributed to the large troop deployment in the region, which highlights the challenges faced by Ukrainian forces in coordinating their defense. One significant factor identified is the lack of smooth coordination between Ukrainian units, many of which are formed from different brigades and organized into company and battalion-level formations. Despite these challenges, Ukrainian forces have demonstrated their resilience and tactical prowess, successfully repelling the Russian offensive for the time being. Newly emerged footage shows heavy losses suffered by Russian forces as Moscow continues to advance decisively at several points along its 960-kilometer front in eastern and southern Ukraine, despite the onset of winter. One video shows intense fighting around the settlement of Sinkivka, about 8 kilometers northwest of the city of Kupiansk in Kharkiv Oblast, a key part of the northeastern front. There, Russian forces have been fighting for months to complete the capture of Luhansk Oblast and extend Moscow's reach into Kharkiv Oblast, much of which was liberated by Ukrainian forces in their surprise offensive last fall. The fighting has been fierce, and casualties have been high. A video released by the 30th Mechanized Brigade shows a failed attempt by 2 Russian main battle tanks and 2 armored personnel carriers. Several other tanks and APCs are also seen destroyed or abandoned nearby, likely lost during previous attacks in the area. A combination of mines and artillery appears to have halted the convoy as troops are attacked with heavy machine guns and harassed by kamikaze drones. Dozens of Russian soldiers are seen jumping out of their vehicles to seek cover in nearby bushes. All 4 of the attackers' vehicles were destroyed. Russian troops have been advancing for months toward Luhansk and Kharkiv, with slow progress and heavy casualties. The Institute for War Studies noted on Thursday that positional battles have been taking place in the Kupiansk region, including near Sinkivka, where the 30th Mechanized Brigade video was filmed. Lieutenant Colonel Volodymyr Fedyo, spokesman for the Ukrainian Army Command, reported a decrease in the intensity of Russian actions in recent days on Thursday, although he said there had been 3 separate attacks in the past day. It is possible that worsening weather conditions or some other tactical plan of the enemy has reduced the number of enemy attacks. Fedyo was quoted as saying by the state-run Suspilne Ukraina news agency. However, the enemy tried to advance near Sinkivka to advance toward Kupiansk. They failed to do so. Among the units attacking in the Sinkivka region was the 25th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, according to Ukrainian military observer Konstantin Mashevets. The formation has been involved in a full-scale invasion since early February 2022. Meanwhile, several pieces of Russian military equipment were destroyed in the Kursk region. A video circulating through pro-war Russian Telegram channels appears to show, with some alleging Ukrainian forces used US-supplied HIMARS missiles in the attack. The footage was shared on social media on the 3rd day of Ukraine's surprise attack on Russia's western Kursk region. Kyiv forces launched a cross-border armored assault on Tuesday, quickly capturing several settlements and capturing several Russian personnel. Ukraine has so far seized at least 166 square miles of Russian territory, Russian investigative media outlet Agentstvo reported on Thursday. A Russian military column was reportedly attacked in the village of Oktyabrskoye, located about 8 kilometers from Rilsk. Some reports suggest Ukraine intended to capture Rilsk, which lies west of Kurchatov, where the Kursk nuclear power plant is located. Several Russian telegram channels reported that the Ukrainian military used HIMARS missiles in the attack. A column of Russian equipment was destroyed by a HIMARS attack in the Kursk region, Truexa News reported. The video shows the charred remains of Russian vehicles on the side of the road. That's all for today. Thank you for watching this video to the end. You can leave your suggestions in the comments section.